everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Rosie and I am currently a master's student studying forensic archaeology and anthropology at Cranfield University. I've wanted to do archaeology definitely since I was about 14, and I've always enjoyed it when I was younger. In fact, I liked paleontology a bit more when I was younger just because, you know, dinosaurs are really cool. But then I realised you had to do physics and I was like, no, stay away. And I went into archaeology instead. My undergraduate was in archaeology and anthropology at Oxford, and I'm just going to answer questions that people have been asking me over on Instagram, which is, yes, my @ is just a little roo, and if you want to ask me any more questions, feel free to go follow and put them in the comments of this video as well. The first load of questions are all about getting into archaeology, so if you're already in archaeology then feel free to skip ahead to the graduate and early careers section, but this is going to be aimed at people who haven't already started it in the first place. The first question is one that I get a lot, and that is, what A-levels did you take, or what A-levels do you need to study archaeology? I did geography, sociology, textiles, what else did I do? And general studies, and then I also did an AS in biology and an EPQ in like the Celts. So I made my EPQ archaeological.
That you
Archaeologically based. My teachers even questioned the fact that I wasn't taking history, and I had to tell them that history that they teach in schools is just so far from what would be useful studying archaeology, in my opinion. I found that geography was a very, very good subject to take for archaeology, the human side and the physical side, because you can understand the processes of sediment being laid down, of new structures being built, of town planning, climate and the impact of the climate on settlements, and all of this is really applicable to archaeology. Sociology felt like a real precursor to the anthropology that I did. It's also good for archaeology because a lot of the theories and schools of thought, like Marxism, feminism, it all comes into play when you're looking at past societies. And more than that, it comes into play when you're assessing the sources from, let's say it's 19th century and 20th century archaeology. When you're assessing their views on the past, you need to look at the school of thought that they were following and the paradigm that they were in. And sociology, for that reason, really helped that. I'm a really artistic person. I love to make things, so I did textiles, and for me that was my, you know, like downtime. And also I incorporated archaeology in my art. And when you're moving forward with archaeology, there's all sorts of artistic positions you can have as an archaeologist, because you can be an archaeological illustrator and do plan drawings in archaeology. In fact, you'll be expected to do plan drawings. Photography as well, archaeological photography, it all comes into play. Not to mention there's been art all the way throughout history, and to have a bit of knowledge about artistic process can only help in understanding the artistic pieces from the past. The next question is, how difficult is it at degree level? And this question was specifically about the amount of science and maths involved, as well as the practical side. This really depends on where you go to uni. So my course that I did was very heavily focused on bookwork. It was focused on archaeological theory and, you know, actually learning about different cultures and about different people and settlements and sites. Whereas other courses are very much focused on practical skills and actually getting out into the world of archaeological work. There are courses that are actually archaeological science in the name, so it really does depend on which one you're in, but I don't see why you'd need any maths over GCSE, personally, from my experience. My biology AS was really helpful. I would recommend, if you do like science, to take biology and chemistry. Not necessarily chemistry, they're just the two that are the most relevant to archaeology, because chemistry comes up in isotopic analysis. I didn't do chemistry at A-level, and I've been fine with the isotopic analysis stuff, because once you get it, you get it, but it might be a nice head start. Do you have to take archaeology at undergraduate to then do it at postgraduate? No. You can start from scratch. You can come from anywhere. I know people on my course right now who did biology, people who have done archaeology doing more archaeology, other people who've just done forensics now doing forensic archaeology. If you're doing something historical, geographical, something in conservation, it's all applicable to archaeology, and the most important things for you if you're applying to an archaeology course is going to be trying to get across why archaeology is for you, why you're changing to archaeology, what you've done throughout your course that's applicable and actually shows that you've tried to skew everything you've done towards archaeology. Maybe you haven't, and maybe what would be best for you now is to do some online courses. There's loads of free ones on futurelearn.com, for example. You could read some archaeological books. I actually have a few here, just like on display in the corner. So these are some titles that I have on my shelf, including Jade's book, which isn't actually archaeology based, but it's here. Just try and start getting yourself into it. So even following archaeology academics on Twitter is going to get you into like seeing what papers they've written and new books that are coming out, and you can just keep up to date with what's happening. Should you take a specialised archaeology degree? Yeah, why not? If you want to specialise in a specific area of archaeology and you're sure that's what you want to do, then absolutely do it, because that's what's going to interest you for the next 3-4 years of your life. I personally wanted to do bioarchaeology at York. That was my initial first choice for a degree at undergraduate, but then I stopped biology after AS because my exam didn't go as well as I'd have liked, and for that reason I changed to just archaeology and decided to pick up on the bioarchaeology for my postgraduate, which has worked out fine, and I liked having a really wide base in archaeology just because then I could find my feet and really prove to myself that the bioarchaeology was what I actually wanted to do, and it still is. So if you think something is what you want to do, trust yourself, but also trust if you're having thoughts about the fact that maybe you'll change your mind, because you can specialise still on a general course just through option papers and dissertation work, and also optional seminars that you can go to. Can I still become a general archaeologist with a specialised degree? If you've got general archaeology skills, and that would be, you know, observation, source analysis, and then the practical side of it, then you can still be an archaeologist. You'll just be best placed in something with your specialism. That's not to say you can't pick up other things that you're interested in, or will be really tied down to that one specific area of archaeology that you've decided to specialise in. It could be that if your specialism is, for example, just in Japanese archaeology, and then you go for a job that specialises in Australian archaeology, then you might have an issue. But generally, like, if you just want to be an archaeologist, then I think you'll be fine. What do you wish you knew about choosing or studying an archaeology degree before you started it? I wish that I had known how much exactly practical work was in each course that I was looking at, and I wish I'd have realised what is actually important and useful in an archaeology degree. If there's one thing when I look back on the course at Oxford, was I didn't get taught many of the skills necessary for actual field archaeology and for commercial archaeology work, and that's because it was focusing on the academic side, you know, the actual learning loads of random facts. And I could reel off random facts for you all day, but in terms of actually, you know, creating site plans and learning about how to draw stratigraphy matrices and all these other archaeological terms, we had 1 2-week fieldwork period on this at the end of first year, and then it was sort of never mentioned again. I'm not going to remember it. And this 2-week fieldwork period was also straight after our first year exams. We didn't even get 2 days of a break between this. It was straight from exams Monday to Thursday, away to site on the Saturday, and then we were camping for 2 weeks. So obviously the concentration levels are going to be at an all-time low. Dear Maria, count me in. There's a story at the bottom of the road, and it feels like it was.
It's enough slices!
Basically try and make sure that the course you're applying to is right for how you learn. So if you're a practical learner, then maybe go somewhere like UCLan or York. Those seem, from the open days and from the like induction days that we had, because I applied to both those places, would be very practically based, and that you would have these transferable skills, whereas Oxford, for example, was very book based, and everything was assessed on essays. Every single thing, like the entire degree was assessed on my dissertation, which was 15,000 words, and then how many, like 7 exams. In each of those 7 exams you had to write 3 essays. Fine if you want to go into research and academia, which part of me does, but also part of me wants to try out field archaeology, and I've got a lot to work on there. Congratulations, you've made it to the graduate and early career section of this video. Maybe you skipped here, maybe you've actually listened to me for the last 10 minutes. Well done. I honestly could not have done that myself, so I'm impressed. Number 1, what are the employment prospects? Currently in archaeology, the employment prospects are very good, which is great for graduates like myself who are about to go into the market, but it is unfortunate because the reason for this is both Brexit and COVID, basically. UK archaeology has lost a lot of workers, like I said, both with Brexit and with COVID, and there was already a shortage of UK archaeologists in the field, and those extra spaces were filled with foreign workers, and we needed those people, and the discipline needs those people, and heritage needs those people. But yeah, for now, basically every single archaeology company is hiring constantly because there are not enough archaeologists to fill projects such as HS2, which is the high-speed rail line, which is probably not going to be finished for another like 20 years, so I'll have a job for life, I guess, if I want to dig in the dirt for 2 decades, and we'll see about that. But if you didn't know, there is a law in the UK that was passed in the 90s where basically if there is going to be a new construction, a new commercial build, it is a legal requirement for an archaeological survey to be carried out by a consulting firm that does surveying. Oh, I just flicked a ring off. Flick. That's a tongue twister. It'll be just my luck that the minute this video goes live, nowhere's hiring and I won't ever get a job. So maybe don't take my word for it, but this is the impression that I'm under in terms of the job market as a field archaeologist at the moment. There's obviously other jobs that you can do with an archaeology degree, and that leads me into the next question, which is what are the actual types of jobs that you can do as an archaeologist or with qualifications in archaeology. There's the obvious ones like being an archaeologist, being a different specialism within archaeology, so you could be a specialist in Chinese archaeology, you could be a specialist in indigenous archaeology, or Christianity, or bioarchaeology, osteoarchaeology, animals in archaeology. There's so many specialisms that you could go into where your job is probably a researcher or you're attached to a university, you could work in a museum, and then there's the other side of archaeology where you can go into doing the archaeological consulting. So it would be more of a desk-based job and you would do the surveys and hire the teams essentially to check an area does or doesn't need excavating. You have people who work in conservation, others who teach in a university. There's politicians such as Nick Clegg, he did archaeology. I know people who have gone from the Oxford course with me onto doing other consultancy jobs, and others who are now in media and art. Some professions that you might not know about that are a bit more overlooked, let's say, in archaeology are people like outreach workers, people who do community archaeology, for example, and get children involved with their own historic environment. This is something that I really enjoy, I'm really passionate about. I currently do it digitally, as I'm doing right now, but will maybe one day end up doing in physical form. You can also be things like behind the scenes researchers for TV shows and for movies so that they get the historical correctness. These people also exist for crime shows, so if you were a forensic archaeologist then you might be able to help with the research on that. You have historical provenances who make sure that everything on set, everything that you wear on the movie, everything is designed perfectly as it should be for that historical period. And there's obviously presenting and stuff. Presenting, again, is another one of my dream jobs that I've always had. Specifically presenting archaeology jobs. I've always had a thing for Alice Roberts. I want her job. That is what I want to do. She was one of the first, I think, women that I saw presenting things that I really enjoyed and was passionate about on TV, and it's stuck with me ever since. Now I want to do that, and have since been informed that I need a PhD and probably some actual like research and maybe teaching experience before that. So it's probably a long way off, but we're still baby steps. Baby steps. I think filming this video is one of those baby steps, you know? Finally, I have 3 general archaeology questions. And to be fair, these are really valid. The first one is, why archaeology?
Well, I personally just really enjoy digging up the past.
No, I love archaeology because I like learning about people. I like to learn about where people came from, about origins, about how we went from being hunter-gatherer groups to this mass of people on a flying rock, and it baffles me. Honestly, I can't go anywhere without walking down the street and thinking, what would this have looked like when it was just that house? Or what would this have looked like when Henry VIII was on the throne? What would this have looked like when it was just the beginning of using stone tools? I think I'm just really interested in the environmental process, which is why I like geography as well, and human interaction and how we can learn about human interaction over time. And most subjects make me quite bored easily, whereas archaeology doesn't make me bored easily because you're always learning new things, and it's practical, isn't it? And if you've probably gathered already from this video, I am not one to sit still. She says, changing position for the 67th time in the space of like 20 minutes. Ah! I just cracked! That's my archaeology knees, that is. So what makes archaeology worth battling the weather? That is a great question. That's just giving me an idea for a TikTok now. I like finding things. I like finding things and thinking, wow, I'm the first person to hold this item, to see it, to touch this thing, whatever it is, since that person like 2,000 years ago dropped it on the ground here. Like, is that not the coolest thing ever? I'm hoping because you're watching this you'll agree with me. It baffles me, absolutely baffles me, that someone just like me was holding this item 600 years ago. How lucky am I to be that person that gets to pick it up again? It blows my mind. It is just, that's worth it for me. I say that as if I enjoyed any of the rain on my excavation that I went on several months ago. I didn't. And actually have mostly done excavations in the sun. So maybe if I refilm this video after I've done some commercial archaeology that runs all year round, December, January, freezing cold, you name it, I might disagree with myself. But if you don't mind getting muddy, and getting mud everywhere, you need short nails, then it's worth it. And finally, what do archaeologists actually do? Well, the role of an archaeologist is, in very short terms, basically to understand the processes of the land and to use these natural processes, you know, sediment build-up that forms natural layers, that's called stratigraphy, and archaeologists read this stratigraphy and they read it with artifacts and they say, okay, these artifacts were in this stratigraphic layer, that layer dates to X year, and then they can, one, look at the dating and look at the sequence of events, but also it is an archaeologist's job to just draw observations from patterns of artifacts, the way that things have been cut into different layers, you know, to observe and understand and just bounce ideas about. No one is going to be definitely for sure right, because in archaeology we're not generally unearthing things that say this is what was happening here on this year, definitely. It is all about perception, and that is precisely one of the reasons why archaeology needs to be diverse. we need more archaeologists from different backgrounds who have different bodies, who have grown up with different things, understanding different things and different ways of life, because everybody understands the environment from their own lived experience. And how am I ever going to understand the lived experience of someone who is deaf, for example, or someone who has black skin? I'm not. And so we need more archaeologists from these different backgrounds to understand the people in the past properly. And I'm actually, on that note, going to put again people on the screen who will have had all different perspectives on life. And hopefully you will enjoy these people and follow their content, and it will be just as informative as I'm trying to be, because there are a really good group of archaeology content creators out there. And on that note, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this has answered your questions. Like I said, if you've got any more, pop them in the comments or send me them on Instagram. If you did enjoy this video, then please do give me a thumbs up, because it really does help spread it. I don't understand algorithms, but I know that liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, all of it really, really helps content creators who do all of this for free. So share it, and then maybe I'll get £3.57 from AdSense. I will see you at my next video, guys. Goodbye, have a nice day. Oh, I can't even reach, I can't reach. I'll try again.